The room erupted in applause as my wife and I stepped onto the stage for our wedding reception. Cameras flashed, glasses clinked, and I finally allowed myself to relax. After years of hard work, this day felt perfect. Then my father stood up with a microphone. "I have one final wedding request," he announced with a smile. Everyone laughed, expecting a heartfelt blessing. Instead, he pointed toward the brand new BMW parked outside the venue, decorated with a ribbon. "Give the BMW to your sister. She deserves it more than you." The laughter stopped. I stared at him, convinced I had misheard. My mother nodded in agreement. "You've always earned plenty of money. She has a harder life. Be a good brother." Across the room, my younger sister smiled without the slightest bit of embarrassment. She didn't deny it. She simply held out her hand as if the keys already belonged to her. Guests began whispering. I knew he'd give it away. He's always the responsible one. He can easily buy another car. No one asked what the BMW meant to me. It wasn't just an expensive vehicle. It was the first thing I'd ever bought purely for myself after spending years paying off my parents' debts, helping my sister with rent, covering family emergencies, and quietly solving problems no one else wanted to handle. Every promotion, every late night, every sacrifice had helped pay for someone else's dream. This BMW was the first reward I'd ever allowed myself. Yet, standing there on my wedding day, my family acted as though my happiness was just another resource they could redistribute. My sister laughed softly. "Don't be selfish," she said. "You can afford another one." Those words hit harder than I expected, not because of the car, because I suddenly realized they had never seen me as a son or a brother. They saw me as an unlimited bank account. I looked around the ballroom. Some guests avoided eye contact. Others watched eagerly, waiting for an argument. They expected shouting. They expected tears. They expected me to give in, just like every other time. Instead, I calmly reached into my pocket and picked up the BMW keys. My sister stepped forward with a confident smile. I walked toward her. She stretched out her hand. For a brief moment, everyone believed they already knew how the story would end. I smiled politely, closed my hand around the keys again, and slipped them back into my pocket. Then I turned to my wife. "Let's go," I said quietly. Without another word, we walked off the stage and out of our own wedding reception. Behind us, I heard my mother calling my name, my father demanding that I come back, and my sister shouting that I was embarrassing the family. I never turned around. As the ballroom doors closed behind me, I realized something I should have understood years earlier. Some people don't love your kindness. They love your usefulness. They thought they had won. They had no idea what I was about to do next. The morning after the wedding, my phone exploded with messages. My parents demanded I apologize for ruining the reception. My sister insisted the BMW should still be transferred to her because everyone already believed it was hers. Not one message asked how my wife or I felt. I quietly archived every conversation. That same week, I met with my accountant and attorney. For years, I had been paying my parents' mortgage, covering my sister's rent, funding family vacations, and even keeping a monthly allowance flowing into their accounts. None of it was legally required. It had simply become expected. I ended every payment. No dramatic phone call. No angry speech. Just signatures on a few documents. Then I went back to work. Instead of spending weekends solving family problems, I invested my time into expanding my business. New clients arrived, partnerships grew, and opportunities one had ignored for years finally received my full attention. My wife and I built a peaceful life where every decision was based on respect instead of guilt. A few months later, the cracks began to appear. Without my money, my parents struggled to maintain the lifestyle they had proudly shown off to relatives. My sister's expensive apartment became difficult to afford, and the luxury shopping trips suddenly stopped. For the first time, they had to make financial choices on their own. Relatives started calling me, saying I should help the family again. I thanked them for their concern, but never argued. My answer was always the same. I wish them well. Silence frustrated them more than any argument ever could. Meanwhile, people who knew the full story began reaching out privately. They admitted they had been shocked by what happened at the wedding and respected the way I had handled it. I never asked anyone to defend me. The truth was spreading on its own. If you enjoy stories where quiet strength defeats arrogance, subscribe to Justice Tales Junction. Every story proves that real victory comes from patience, dignity, and self-respect. They were still talking about me. I was already far ahead of them. Nearly a year passed before I saw my family again. It happened at my cousin's engagement party. When my wife and I walked into the hall, conversations slowed. Relatives who had only heard one side of the story finally had the chance to see us in person. I greeted everyone politely, smiled, and took my seat without mentioning the wedding. A few minutes later, my parents arrived with my sister. For the first time in my life, they looked uncertain. The confident expressions they wore at my wedding were gone. During dinner, one of my uncles stood up and congratulated me on my company's newest expansion. He mentioned that my business had recently created dozens of new jobs and donated to a local education program. Several guests applauded, surprised by everything that had happened over the past year. My father lowered his head. He hadn't even known. He had been so focused on what I could give him that he never noticed what I was building. My sister finally broke the silence. I didn't realize how much you've done for everyone. She said quietly, I'm sorry. Then my mother spoke. We thought you would always come back. We never imagined you'd walk away for good. I looked at them calmly. I didn't walk away because of a BMW, I said. I walked away because that moment showed me how little respect existed behind every favor I had ever done. No one interrupted. I was happy to help when it came from love. I continued. But when kindness becomes an obligation, it stops being kindness. My father nodded slowly. We made a terrible mistake. I accepted his words with a quiet smile. I forgive you, I replied. But forgiveness doesn't mean returning to the life we had before. I shook their hands, wished them peace, and returned to my table beside my wife. For the rest of the evening, no one argued. No one demanded anything. They finally understood that the greatest loss wasn't the money or the BMW. It was the trust they had traded for entitlement. Thank you for watching Justice Tales Junction. If stories of quiet strength, dignity, and powerful life lessons inspire you, subscribe and join our growing community. Every news story reminds us that true respect is earned, not demanded. They thought I was weak because I stayed silent. They never realized I was simply busy building a life that no longer depended on their approval. Life has a way of revealing people's true intentions when you stop giving them what they expect. The greatest mistake isn't being kind. It's allowing kindness to become an obligation. Real strength isn't found in shouting, arguing, or proving others wrong. It's found in knowing your worth, setting healthy boundaries, and walking away with dignity when respect no longer exists. Success means little without self-respect, and peace begins the moment you stop financing people who only value what you can provide. Silence is not weakness. It is preparation. Respect is never demanded. It is realized, often when it's already too late.